for this, and we ask you to strengthen us, Allah Ta'ala, for all that we have been doing. Bless this occasion and bless this international celebration so that we will achieve peace in our country and outside our country. The whole world is hungry for peace, and the whole world is worried about solidarity and trust across the world, which is fading away. May the Almighty Allah bless us with the capacity to strengthen our solidarity and trust across the world. We pray specifically for our Peace Commission within the country, which is promoting peace at all levels. May the Almighty Allah strengthen our Peace Commission with all that it takes to foster peace in Sierra Leone. For this reason, may Allah bless the Peace Commission. Without the enabling environment provided by government, Peace Commission and all other state institutions cannot function properly. But with the goodwill of the government and providing the necessary environment, we therefore pray for Allah to strengthen our government and to give our government the required strength to deliver the goods in concrete terms and to give us good governance. Without the goodwill and support of our diplomatic friends and development partners across the world, our government may find it difficult to progress rapidly. But with the goodwill of our international partners and donor partners, we are able to achieve quite a lot in terms of peace and other things. We therefore ask the Almighty Allah to bless our diplomatic friends and international partners in this great fight. We pray for all Sierra Leoneans to be able to be peaceful and law-abiding Sierra Leoneans. Our current tension in the country, the political tension, we ask Allah Ta'ala to neutralize these political tensions and replace it with political friendship that will enable us to work together as harmonious people in politics and non-politics, in economics and all other fields of life, so that we'll enjoy a very peaceful Sierra Leone. Please join me to recite the Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. السلام عليكم.
Walaikum salam. Thank you very much. From the Interreligious Council, again, we want to ask for a volunteer to lead us in Christian prayers. From the Interreligious Council again. Or any entry-level Christian. Entry-level Christian.
Let us pray. The Lord be with you. Our God and our Father, we want to thank you for another blessed morning again. Father, as we celebrate the International Day of Peace, Father, we know you're a God of peace. And so, Father, remember all countries, all areas wherein there is conflict. We pray for your peace and your strength. As we gather here this morning, Father, whatever deliberation, Father, I pray that your Holy Spirit will be amongst us, that you lead us through this process. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Son. Thank you, Holy Spirit. For in Jesus' name I pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. One of the very few countries where everybody can recite the Lord's Prayer and can say Al-Fatiha. So usually I used to say we are Christmas. Good Muslims, good Christians. Thank you very much. It's interesting that most times when we talk about peace, a couple of things comes to mind. What it is, and what action must we take to ensure we remain peaceful. That was the focus. And I want to recognize two things. We might not disagree, but it's fine. It's good to disagree. That's a democracy, right? It's good to disagree. That's a democracy, right? I used to say us to disagree on things. But two things I think we've been able to achieve as a country. We will disagree on the process and issues around the results, transparency, and all the other things. But I think what we all agree as unions is the fact that relative to other elections, the 2023 elections were generally peaceful, relative to previous elections. And take note of the word relative. This is not to say there were no skirmishes. This is not to say we were at a point where we want our electoral processes to be. But relative to previous elections, 2023 was much more. But the Independent Commission for Peace is celebrating or commemorating the second International Peace Day since its creation. So it is also a relatively very young institution. And for many Sahelians, we had our concerns, we had our doubts, whether an institution which legal instrument started in 2021 was good enough to be able to bring all actors together to promote the fundamental ideas of peace and social cohesion. And I think on that again, we all acknowledge that progress has been made. As young as the institution is, we're not only celebrating Second International Day of Peace. The institution has been able to be the leader in ensuring that there are stakeholder conversations. We're able to bring people of diverse political opinions. We all recall what happened close to the elections. Our international development partners were around. The role that the Peace Commission played in ensuring that the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone and the major opposition were able to have this conversation very close to the elections. Today, as we disagree on the elections and the election results, we all see the effort that has been taken by the Peace Commission to ensure that we bring the major stakeholders to the table to dialogue. I think that's a demonstration of the fundamental presence of the Peace Commission. And so in today's conversation about looking at what action can we take to promote the global goals of development, people don't need a lecture about international peace. It's a day set aside by the United Nations to reflect on global peace, but also for individuals and groups and institutions to take action to promote peace. Where there are conflicts, we ask for ceasefire. Where it's for non-violence, and we ask for citizens to take immediate action to promote peace within their communities. But I was listening to the UN Secretary General's message on global peace, on what is a positive coincidence that this year will be the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, right? I think around December. The respect of human rights is a fundamental part of promoting peace. And the UN Secretary General calls us all, which was I'm happy that the UN resident coordinator is here and be our guest speaker today to speak on those issues. He calls us all on fundamental issues across the world. 3 years ago, we can say the entire African country was living in democracy. Down the line, there's coup in Guinea, there's one in Gabon, there's one in Chad, there's one in Mali. There have been unconstitutional change of government in almost 9 African countries. A significant democratic relation. That's something that borders on peace. Go to Morocco, to Libya. Natural disaster has taken up lives. People still live under poverty. And the question about the relationship between peace and the way we manage natural resources and environment is very critical. But there's also the question of government. Those are institutions provide the enabling environment for us to dialogue, to question our leaders, to challenge decisions. The young people, women, persons with disability play a role in the governance process. To what extent does that contribute to or hinders peace? What action can we take collectively to ensure we promote peace? It's an elusive concept, and our speakers today from both our international development partners and the panel discussion will be having. The aim is to talk about peace. But the word peace itself is not a new concept, right? You only have to go to the Quran some years ago. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Alive? Peace be with you, right? I'm not even an entry-level Christian, but I know there are verses. Is it John 14 something? I'm not so sure. Say, my peace I give you, and my peace I leave with you. Don't judge me if I don't get it right. But the fundamental part is, even our tool from religion speaks about peace. But what is peace? I'll share with you an example that I had over a decade ago. I was a young scholar then. I just started my academic career at the University of Manchester in the UK in 2009. I was doing a course on security and development, the nexus between security and development outcomes. And we had a topic called security sector reform in post-conflict countries. Our guest lecturer then was Brigadier Sir David Richards, who was the head of the British Army. He had retired, and he was invited to talk about the security sector reform processes. When he came to the class, it was a theater, a lecture theater like this, with over 300 students. Few of us, people of color. And he asked, anyone from Sierra Leone? Anybody from Sierra Leone? I was the unlucky guy. I raised my hand. I said, okay, my friend, this lecture maybe is not for you. I was surprised. Everybody was looking at me. But the fundamental point he was trying to say was, I'm going to use my experience, what we did in post-war Sierra Leone, about reforming the military, strengthening the police, integrating, ensuring we have political oversight of security institutions, how that contributed to the peace process in Sierra Leone. That is what I'm going to talk about. And I said, and I'm assuming you know most of the things. He made a wrong judgment there, and he didn't know we don't understand. But then after a 2-hour lecture, he came back and asked a question. Does anyone have a reflection on what we're trying to achieve? All of us, about 300 of us, postgraduate students, were looking at it. Nobody had a clue. And the answers we provided were nice, but did not meet to his expectations. We're talking about development, we're talking about growth, we're talking about a secure environment. And he used one word: stability. He came back after the lecture and he spoke about stability. So we're trying to explore what he meant then by stability. His analysis was, across the world, evidence shows that where development has occurred is in communities that are much more stable, where citizens have the power to question their elected representatives, where elected representatives don't think they are doing people a favor. Because for him, the process of development is about stability. Those of us who are academics, the work of Master Sen, we were quite largely about stability and freedom. I have the right to ask questions. I can associate. I can belong to a group. Because for him, the process of development is block by block, brick by brick. In any society where you have a breakdown of stability, the processes of peace and growth and development stalls. So what we're doing in Sierra was to ensure that we have a stable society where there's civilian oversight of the army, where the police provide security for its citizens, where citizens respect the rule of law, where the judiciary follows due processes, and where people who belong to different political parties and have different views are provided a platform to discuss and dialogue, and where elections are not meant to exclude but to ensure everybody That was what we were looking for. And for him, that was peace. What is peace? A lot of people will define peace differently. The work of Johan Galtung provide fundamental basis in academic literature in understanding peace. And that's where I'll stop before we begin the conversation. What Galtung did was to simply categorize peace into two. What he referred to as positive and negative peace. Negative peace for Johan Galtung is the absence of violence, but that doesn't mean you're peaceful. If bullets are not being fired, if the guns are not being fired, it doesn't mean you live in a peaceful society. Positive peace for Galtung goes beyond the absence of violence. It's a conducive society where citizens disagree, but they're not necessarily disagreeing, where the rule of law prevails, where citizens can question, where elected representatives feel they have an obligation to respond to the questions of their citizens. It is those fundamental principles that forms the basis of understanding what peace is. And this is what the United Nations calls us to. And in this year's celebration about taking action, how do we ensure that we protect our environment? How do we ensure that we promote justice and fairness in state institutions? How do we ensure that we reduce on maternal and child health, right? Sustainable energy, protecting our marine biology. All of that happens in a society that is peaceful and stable. And today's gathering is to assess to what extent have we as a people contributed to that. Say I live today living in positive or negative peace. It's not for me to say, it's for our speakers to say. Once more, I want to thank you very much for attending, and that's the process of the conversation. To do so, I want to start by bringing in the Deputy Chair of the Board for the Independent Commission for Peace to provide a welcome statement for our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for the Deputy Chair. Deputy Chair.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick observation. I am not the Deputy Chair. I am a board member of the Peace Commission. I step in to support the chair in his absence, but we only have a chairman and the members of the board. So I'm not here as a Deputy Chair. I am stepping into the shoes of the chairman who is unavoidably absent today. Thank you very much. I want to first of all start by extending our profound apologies for starting a little late. We should have started at least an hour earlier than now. But we're here now, and please accept our apologies. Ministers of Government, Members of Parliament, local and religious leaders, representatives of local councils and municipalities, representatives of political parties, members of the diplomatic and consular corps, our development partners, representatives of civil society organizations, the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all other protocols observed, good morning. I bid you heartfelt salutations from the board, of which, like I said earlier on, I am a member representing the Southern region. The Executive Secretary and entire membership and staff of the Independent Commission for Peace and national cohesion. Following the end of the decade-long civil war in 2002, the aftermath of which left many people homeless and lots of properties destroyed, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission was set up, which mandate, among many, was to look into the root causes of the war and proffer recommendations to prevent further conflicts in Sierra Leone. One of many recommendations of that commission was the establishment of a peace and national cohesion entity that will be charged with the principal responsibility to maintain peace and unity in the country. Subsequently, an Act of Parliament created the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion in December 2020, thanks to His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio. The Commission has a constituted board and an executive secretary as the operational head of that organization, who superintends the day-to-day activities of the Commission. It currently has 6 directorates, comprising the Directorate of Corporate Affairs, the Directorate of Finance, the Directorate of Conflict Prevention, the Directorate of Conflict Resolution, the Directorate of Communications and Outreach, and the Directorate of Monitoring, Evaluation, Accountability, and Learning, NIL. At this juncture, I would like to crave your indulgence to briefly recognize the team of board members who have been assiduously overseeing the affairs of the Commission since our appointment. Some of them are on international responsibilities overseas, but those who are here, I would like to introduce to you. I will start with Reverend Mrs. Olivia Foney. Please stand up. Reverend Foney represents religious bodies. Next to her, Alhaji Musa Salam Conte, who is board member representing the Eastern region. Followed is Alhaji Suleiman Ba, who is the board member representing the Northeast. We have the following board members who are absent today. I'll just name them. Ambassador Haja Elari Cole, who is a board member representing the Western region. Paramount Chief Sheikh Fasuluku, the Paramount Chief and Traditional Leader. Ms. Valora Edwin, who is representing civil society organizations. And our chairman, Reverend Shodanke B.E. Johnson. The Commission's current staff strength is 50 across all 16 electoral and administrative districts of Sierra Leone. In less than 2.5 years of existence, the Commission has been successful in development of a 3-year strategic plan, establishment of a peace situation group, a toll-free line 898 to report early warning situations, a peace hour platform with more than 30 radio stations to discuss peace-related issues, and many more. Today is September 21st, 2023, and this date has been designated as the International Day of Peace. Today, the whole world is celebrating the peace that we enjoy, without which it will be impossible to carry out our day-to-day affairs and activities. As a country, we have a lot to celebrate when it comes to maintaining national peace and social cohesion. We are not only celebrating global peace, we are in fact celebrating the fact that just in 2 years, Sierra Leone has had a considerable upward shift. 3 spaces is up in the Global Peace Index, ranking Sierra Leone the third most peaceful country in Africa and topping West Africa as the most peaceful country. This is a laurel which was not achieved singularly by the Peace Commission or by the country as a whole. We would like to thank the Vice President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, who is unavoidably absent today due to other government engagements. He was expected to be here. Unfortunately, he's not here. However, our Vice President has been a non-detachable auxiliary to His Excellency in all the development strides of the country. To our hard-working ministers of state, members of parliament, local authorities, members of the diplomatic and consular corps, the media, all other distinguished personalities, and friends and family of ICPNC, I wholeheartedly welcome you all to this celebration of the International Day of Peace. This is the Peace Commission, where peace is our watchword and national cohesion our maximum. We hope that you all will enjoy your stay here with us as we hope to leave this conference hall in sound health and with something in our minds. With all your support in diverse ways, Sierra Leone will shift to the most peaceful country in Africa and among the most peaceful countries in the world. I want to thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Lord Member of the Peace Commission. I'm pretty sure you represented members of the board very well. I've been informed that in addition to our development partners who were here last year, we also have in our presence the new American ambassador to Sierra Leone. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and welcome. And with those applause, please join me again to welcome His Excellency, the U.S. Ambassador to Sierra Leone, who will be our first speaker today.
Mr. Moderator, thank you very much for that introduction. All protocols having previously been observed by the representative of the chairman of the National Cohesion, let me just begin with the esteemed guests and friends. And we're going to switch out the microphone. I want to begin with thanks to our UMAP colleagues who, in partnership with the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion, are hosting us here today on this 42nd International Day of Peace. On this occasion, the world stops to reflect on peace and to imagine the kinds of communities locally and globally in which we want to live. But for many right now, instability and insecurity, particularly in this region, are top of mind. Violent extremists, transnational criminals, corrupt elites and institutions, dire economic conditions, food insecurity, and climate change. All these have the power to undermine development, endanger security, and spark humanitarian crises. This year, as we come together to dream of a more peaceful world, it is impossible to ignore the forces and destabilizing actions that wrest us all from those visions. From the unlawful regime changes being seen throughout West Africa, to the horrors of Russia's unprovoked war of aggression against Ukraine, there is reason to question whether peace, stability, and international norms are still ascending. Russia's illegal invasion of its neighbor has sent shockwaves throughout the international community. It has disrupted global stability, imperiled economies, disrupted trade, and most significantly displaced millions of innocent civilians. Sierra Leone, like many African nations, has paid the price for Russia's choice to violate international norms and pursue aggression. Downward shifts in global financial and commodity markets, humanitarian assistance shortfalls, and the rising costs of basic necessities are all directly linked to this choice and are having a devastating impact on ordinary Sierra Leoneans. Shoulder to shoulder with our Sierra Leonean partners, the United States has worked to marshal the support of the international community to stand in defense of the UN Charter and the values of sovereignty and territorial integrity that Russia's war has violated. On multiple occasions at the United Nations, 140 nations, 2/3 of the organization's member states, have stood with Ukraine and those cherished principles. And I want to thank Sierra Leone for its leadership in defense of international law. As President Biden said earlier this week at the United Nations General Assembly, Russia believes that the world will grow weary and allow it to brutalize Ukraine without consequence. If we allow Ukraine to be carved up, is the independence of any nation secure? Sierra Leone's stance in support of Ukraine sends a powerful message that the world should stand together in condemnation of those who engage in unprovoked aggression and in support of those who strive for peace. This reason is among the many reasons that the United States looks forward to welcoming and working closely with Sierra Leone as it assumes a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council in Geneva. Sierra Leone's own history serves as a beacon of hope for those who suffer from violence, and a shining example of the constructive role that both United Nations peacekeeping and international reconstruction assistance can play in helping societies end and recover from conflict. Sierra Leoneans' commitment to rebuilding this nation and moving it forward along a democratic trajectory has inspired many nations around the globe. And though the democratic institutions and the spirit of national cohesion that you have built continue to be tested, the United States is heartened by the current efforts of Sierra Leone's political leaders of all stripes to enter mediated dialogue, and by what we are confident will remain a commitment to nonviolence to overcome the immense challenges stemming from the country's recent elections. It is evident that the pursuit of peace is not a solitary endeavor, but rather a collective responsibility. And it requires national leaders to compromise and place the interests of those they serve continuously above their personal and partisan ones. Part of the answer to challenges to security and stability lies, of course, in developing effective, competent, and professional law enforcement and security services that protect citizens while respecting human rights. The United States has been proud to provide training to the Sierra Leone police and members of the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces. But as Secretary Blinken said in a recent speech, not everything can be solved with more and better equipped security forces. Getting at the root causes of instability and insecurity is the only way to bring about lasting peace. This means strengthening and developing criminal justice and security sector approaches that respect the rights of every individual and which hold accountable those that abuse their powers. It means expanding economic opportunities, particularly for young people who may otherwise feel they have no alternatives beyond drug abuse, crime, or causing unrest. And it means supporting and growing democratic institutions. Democracies everywhere are increasingly under threat from within and without, challenged internally by politicians stoking fear and exploiting resentment to enrich themselves and seize greater power, and challenged externally by autocratic regimes who spread disinformation and weaponize corruption for their political gain. As the people of Sierra Leone know all too well, the corruption that leads to the impoverishment of communities through illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, illicit mining, and illegal timber harvesting also fundamentally undermines democratic institutions, national cohesion, and peace. As we commemorate this International Day of Peace, let us reaffirm our commitment to the core principles of peace: adherence to international law, defense of fundamental freedoms, and respect for human rights. Let us continue to strive for inclusive and sustainable economic growth that allows opportunities for everyone to thrive with dignity, and for stronger democratic institutions that can continue to carry the aspirations of our societies forward. Let us work together as global citizens to ensure that the horrors of conflict, such as the one in Ukraine, may become a distant memory, and those responsible for them are held fully accountable. Finally, let us recommit ourselves to continuing to fight against that corruption which deprives communities of their livelihoods and erodes democratic institutions both from without and from within. In closing, I want to express my gratitude for the people of Sierra Leone for their resilience, their dedication to the cause of peace, and their determination to build a democratic future for this nation. Thank you, and let us work tirelessly for a more peaceful and just world.
Another big round of applause. Very important things he mentioned. Sierra Leone is a shining example of democracy. Some 20 years ago, we had West African and UN peacekeeping forces in Sierra Leone who helped us to strengthen our peace and national stability. Today, Sierra Leone is a very good example of providing its national forces participating in peace missions across the African continent. However, the ambassador also mentioned that there have been instances where our democratic institutions have been challenged. And what we require is a call for national dialogue, where compromises have to be made between all actors. We emphasize the need for dealing with major national issues: crime, drugs, unemployment for young people. These are all threats to national peace. And as we celebrate it, it's a moment for us to reflect on these important reminders from the years and last. They are touching and they mean quite a lot. It's now my pleasure to bring in another friend of Sierra Leone. Not so new, it's been around. It's a supporter of civil society, support democratic institutions, passion and commitment he shares about Sierra Leone and its growth and progress is unrivaled. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for EU Ambassador to Sierra Leone, Ambassador. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to stand to existing protocol. Good morning. Today we celebrate International Peace Day. We celebrate this day together worldwide. Peace is an investment which calls for the participation of all. As representative of the European Union celebrating International Peace Day also reminds me of former French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman, whose project shaped what has now become today's European Union, an economic and political actor globally, an inclusive project that has delivered on its promise to bring peace and prosperity into Europe, where at that time a lot of healing was needed. This anchored shared values and solidarity amongst the people of Europe. We continue nurturing this vision and these values every day in Europe and through our partnership with the rest of the world. I'm very happy and grateful that our friend Mr. Taravali already mentioned the peace concept of the Swedish scholar Johan Galtung. That makes it easier for me and makes also some of my paragraphs in my speech shorter, because the absence of violence and absence of war, as he has said rightly, is not enough. Galton defined positive peace as integration of human society, and a positive peace definition is important in international relations as well as in a domestic context. Ladies and gentlemen, before the Russian aggression, Ukraine had set itself on a path of sustainable economic growth and development. But Putin's war has reversed the gains that this beautiful country and resilient people of Ukraine have worked so hard to achieve. We all have an interest. Like Sierra Leone, the European Union stands with the people of Ukraine, and our solidarity with the people of Ukraine will remain unshakable. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Union, as a reliable and strong partner of Sierra Leone, has supported the country's transition from the brutal decade-long conflict to a nation that is working towards peace and democracy despite the challenges, and I congratulate the Sierra Leoneans for all their efforts they have successfully undertaken towards peace. It is encouraging to see that Sierra Leoneans want to build and foster social cohesion among all people of Sierra Leone. Important actors on the way towards cohesion are inter alia political leaders, religious leaders, the Peace Commission, civil society, and others. All of us. All stakeholders have a role in consolidating peace and foster social cohesion in Sierra Leone. A good chance for a positive peace, and not only the absence of violence and war. Sierra Leone has been known as a peaceful country during the last 20 years, and Sierra Leoneans have built a hard-won peace. The European Union, as a long-standing partner of Sierra Leone, will continue to support peace, democracy, and development in Sierra Leone. Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank to the Peace Commission and to all those who have contributed that this event today takes place. And let me join into the wish that the International Peace Day may inspire all people in the whole world to work together for a positive peace with social cohesion. Thank you very much.
I think he deserves bigger applause than that, right? And for those of us who work in international development, we know the role of the European Union across our infrastructural development, democratic growth processes, supporting civil society, the work of women, young people across the country. I think that's wonderful. Thank you very much. But he emphasized that while Sierra Leone is known to be a peaceful country, peace sometimes is a global phenomenon. The war in Ukraine, both the US ambassador and the EU ambassador emphasizes how the conflict in Ukraine has wider implications in this area, right? Rising prices of commodities and the cost of living crisis. That can become the basis for conflict and unconstitutional change of government. And when that happens, it will derail peace across the world. So it's our responsibility, all of us, to take action collectively to ensure we work together. I've been informed that the Chinese ambassador is unavoidably absent, and therefore he will not be making a speech. I've also been informed, correctly if I'm wrong, that the Irish ambassador, apparently a new one, so we have a lot of new ambassadors coming in, much more newer than the US ambassador. And so he's not been able yet to brave the streets of Freetown. He's trying to settle down. But it's Josephus here. Josephus is also not here. He will make a statement when he comes back. On that note, please allow me to come home in the sense I want to bring in an institution, an organization that is very close to the history and peace-promoting processes of Sierra Leone. Apart from the younger ones, for those of us who are pretty older, we know ECOMOG. What does ECOMOG? What does ECOMOG? We know ECOMOG, right? And we know what ECOMOG did in Sierra Leone. ECOMOG is an outfit of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, which is the regional political and economic integration bloc, contributed significantly. Thousands of Malians, Nigerians lost their lives in contributing to the peace process. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Let's bring in the representative from ECOWAS to speak on the peace process.
Action for peace, our ambition for global goals. Ambassador Francis on this, here we go. Join us for good hands. Good hands.
Representative from ECOWAS. All right, I've been told he is running late. On that note, I'm coming close to home again, within the sub-region again. And a lot of people struggle to understand that the region and the headquarters of the Mano River Union is in Freetown. So we play host to the Mano River Union, which started as a small bloc of 3 countries, right? Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and Guinea. The Ivory Coast joined later. I've been told we have a representative from the MRA, representative from the MRA. Big round of applause for the Mano River Union. And finally, I'm very happy to have a lady. Finally.
Here we go.
Please, women, defend your costumes. A big round of applause.
Good morning. Members of the board of the ICPMC, officials of government, members of the diplomatic and consular corps, the interreligious council, traditional leaders, chiefs and elders, the youth of Sierra Leone. Give yourself a distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and sincere thanks to the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion of Sierra Leone for this invitation and the opportunity to join others today to commemorate the International Day of Peace under the theme Action for Peace, our ambition for the global goals. Further, ensuring the right to peace through national conversation for reconciliation in Sierra Leone. The Mano River Union sees this call to action as both an individual and a collective responsibility to foster peace, not only in Sierra Leone, but within the entire Mano River Union sub-region. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the International Day of Peace, observed annually on September 21, is dedicated to promoting peace within and amongst all nations and all peoples. The MRU then contextualizes peace as the opportunity for people to resolve their differences without violence, given the diversity within our society. However, despite our diversity, we must do our utmost to remain peaceful and united. In June 2012, the heads of state of the Mano River Union mandated the Mano River Union Secretariat through the adoption of the revised 15th Protocol on Peace and Security to work to ensure regional peace, stability, and integration within the Mano River Union sub-region. This protocol also covers democratic good governance, including electoral matters. It is this legal framework that has driven all peace initiatives undertaken by the Mano River Union Secretariat. It is based on this protocol that the Mano River Union trained and deployed 35 short-term observers to major districts during the June 23rd presidential and parliamentarian elections in Sierra Leone. Remains engaged with these key stakeholders to continue the dialogue related to post-elections matters. Today, more than ever, it is critical to promote peace and national cohesion with open-mindedness for acceptance across Sierra Leone. The national discourse then should focus on national healing and nation building. It is important to note that the Sierra Leoneans can make their definition of peace a reality when they make an effort to continue to increase awareness in schools and in communities. All of these small actions add up to big results. That is why the MRU believes in working at the grassroots level, especially within the border communities where we are currently supporting women and youth to build on local strength and create activities to harness their skills as well as improve empowerment. All of these activities can only happen if the environment is peaceful. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, the Mano River Union has received accreditation and is also preparing to deploy representatives from its member states to observe the electoral process in Liberia on October 10th. The Mano River Union will continue to engage with elections observers, bodies, and other stakeholders to ensure that the conduct of a peaceful and credible election is possible for the Liberian people. This is especially important because the sub-region has seen the impact of war in one area that spilled over to the other nations within the Mano River Union sub-region. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we realize that peace is a requisite condition for development. Without peace, there can be no development, and without development, there will surely not be peace. So I'm calling on all stakeholders, especially our partners, to help us in supporting peace and development within the Mano River Union sub-region. In closing, I would like to congratulate the ICPMC for being instrument to organize this event and to reach out to the stakeholders in the Sierra Leonean elections in the hope of accomplishing more peaceful dialogue. I use this opportunity to wish everyone a peaceful International Day today and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Secretary General. A big round of applause for the Secretary General of ECOWAS. That's an elevation. Positive one. I've been informed that we have a representative, the resident representative of ECOWAS is around, but he would prefer not to say anything right now. But we want to acknowledge your presence, sir. Thank you very much. That's the representative from ECOWAS. That would be our, thank you very much, Madam Secretary General. She mentioned very important things about regional integration. And you only need to go to the border towns of Gambia and Kailawa and see the relationship and the interaction at the border communities, right? And I recall during elections, a lot of accusations, some of them not validated, where evidence to support them about registration, about movement of people. There are tribes in Gambia, the Sosos of Sierra Leone, the Sosos of Guinea, right? The Gulas, the Bai, between Liberia and Sierra Leone. We want people before our division, so we'll get it right. And I like that progressive growth in regional integration, from the MRU to ECOWAS to AU. It's all a process of us working together as team. And it's important that building peace starts from the individual to your community, to your group, and the move beyond. That would be our bit today for the diplomatic community. We are going to invite our friends, our brothers and sisters from the Sierra Leone School for the Blind for some entertainment. Then we'll take another round of statements before the resident coordinator, who is our guest speaker, who will speak on this important matters today. Sierra Leone School for the Blind. A big round of applause for our brothers and sisters from the Sierra Leone School for the Blind.
Good morning, everybody. So we're delighted to be part of this celebration, and because it's the International Day of Peace, we'll be doing some songs related to peace, and relax and enjoy.
very much. A big round of applause. Thank you. I took a few words there, and I admired the great thing. And people are they call the name there. They call all the two big boys that we are in the interest of peace for Baba Salou. Also, a big round of applause for them again. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to take a few more statements. Acknowledging that we started late and we need to push the process forward. We're due to end midday. To allow us to do that, let's move on to political representation and bring in some political parties, the ones that are here, to make statements, very brief, and commit to the processes of peace. And in no other preference, I'm going to call them the way they've been written in this paper. You will know what I'm saying. When I was getting ready to come to this event, I had to go to my wardrobe just to be sure that I haven't done anything stupid. And I warned myself repeatedly, please Mahmoud, be yourself, behave properly. Don't do anything stupid. But I'm sure I've done justice to myself. I was trying to copy Ambassador Mullah at the time, but I was looking for one. I couldn't find one. All right. And do we have representatives of the political parties? No, I've decided not even to go into court. I'm just asking, who that name? Yes, which political party representing? SLPP. SLPP. Do we have the other one? Is Alusain around? Is APC around? No? Who's on the party reading? Call them back. RFP. All right. Very important to the peace process. That's also. Who's on our reading? ADP will pull down out of parliament and not get seats also. We set a threshold that you cannot meet. Yes? NUIP. We are all on the council of also. Put on 4.5. Nobody not qualified. Yes? UDM. All right. Can I ask amongst yourself if you agree on 2 people so that we run up the time? 2 people. We'll start with SLPP, then 2 people from the other group, then we'll come over. A big round of applause for my brothers from the SLPP.
Mr. Chairman, please allow me to stand on the existing protocol. Good morning, everyone. I bring you greetings and felicitations from His Excellency the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, whom we all know is now attending the UN Security Council, representing us and representing Africa. I also bring you greetings from the chairman of the Sierra Leone People's Party, Dr. Prince Alex Hadi, who should have been here, but is got the funeral to attend. The International Peace Day, which falls every year on the 1st of September, is a special day for the whole world to commemorate peace, and also for us Sierra Leoneans to celebrate peace, the opposite of which we know so well and so vitally in our history. The essence for this day globally is for all to think about how we can make our humanity more peaceful and give it greater meaning and significance. Moving forward, the Sierra Leone People's Party strives to continue to stand on the founding ethics of peace, which leads to national cohesion and development. The SLPP's historic records present the yearning for and maintaining peace, starting with obtaining independence without violence, and since then, working assiduously to hold on its peaceful ambitions. We remember the post-conflict efforts of the former SLPP administration of Dr. Ahmed Tidiane Kaba of blessed memory, who worked tirelessly for peace by building strong national institutions, and this is withheld within the governance fabrics of the administration that we have today. Let us also recall to memory one of the architects of bringing the Sierra Leone war to an end, when the current president, His Excellency, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, brought the fighting forces out of the bush and onto the negotiating table. Also, when he handed over power to civilian rule by democratic means. There is no doubt, therefore, that Sierra Leone is held internationally to the credit of being amongst the top most peaceful countries in Africa. I think this morning it was mentioned that we fall third. And there's reason for that. Number one, the armor of religious tolerance. I don't see any country in West Africa really holds strong religious tolerance like Sierra Leone. The crown of tolerance, no matter how we try to bring tribe into our conflicts, we've never succeeded, and that is a good sign. The ambience of freedom and tolerance, north, south, east, or west, we've never succeeded, even during the Civil War, to bring conflict between those regions. It should have been very, very good if only we could have had number 4. No more interschool tolerance, interschool violence. In the 70s and 80s, we had a lot of those. We were in secondary schools, we started fighting one another. So when we talk about peace, let's see where we stand, where we make progress, then we know how we can translate that positively into our political differences. There are no gang bloodsheds. I mean, you don't see you here in other countries. There are a lot of gangs with guns on the streets. So there is reason for Sierra Leone to be number 3 for peace in Africa or in West Africa. Peace is an ongoing process that needs everyone involved, including all of us living together, and all of you living with us in Sierra Leone, the ambassadors, other members of the diplomatic corps. I mean, we have the donor community, investment communities, business people. We all have to work towards the peace that we are now enjoying in this country. To my fellow Sierra Leoneans, especially the youths that I can see over there, the good news is we can achieve political tolerance. His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio is working towards this goal through his efforts. Our party, SFP, pledges to continue to play its part in building a peaceful country. We have only one Sierra Leone, and we that live in it right now should not be divided by Sierra being on one side and Leone on the other. We should live it as one country. Let us assure our children and grandchildren that we are not going to divide this country. For that reason, let us count ourselves as one people. Sierra Leoneans, can you respond? One people. One people. With also the conviction that we can say, Osai, Osai, and with the confidence that we can say, you touch one, you touch one. These are the slogans of our major political parties. They all carry a strong undertone of peace and harmony. Let us not allow us to be also divided by colors. When you look at the streets of Freetown, and our chairman was very clever, he said he was very conscious of the colors which we are today. But look at us sitting here, different colors, beautiful, isn't it? A rainbow color. So let us not allow ourselves to develop that color. If we put all those colors in one pool, and we spin them fast, which color will you get? White, which stands for peace. That demonstrates what we are here for today, and for which Sierra Leone stands. I want to thank you.
A big round of applause again from representative of the SFP. One of the things he mentioned for me which are important take home. He mentioned our level of tolerance from religion to ethnicity to regional, but he also acknowledged the challenges with our political intolerance, right? And I think developing peace, nurturing peace starts with an acknowledgement of where the problems are. But that's the only way we can deal with the issues. Because years are passing, states will never acknowledging these problems, sitting together and having a conversation. Thank you very much. We've agreed among all the other political parties that we're going to have two speakers. One is going to be a man and the other is going to be a woman. So please tell me who will be the speakers. We have to have one man, one woman. First representative. You're the second, right? All right. Which political party? RFP? All right. Thank you very much. He looks very presidential. Big round of applause.
I want to first of all greet everyone in this forum today, and I would also like to apologize to stand on existing protocols. My fellow Sierra Leoneans, distinguished invitees, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone, and also not forgetting the Independent Commission for Peace. I greet everyone in the name of the Almighty. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am representing the Revolutionary United Front Party of Sierra Leone. And this party is a party that's a household name across West Africa. That it was one of these parties that mobilized all the progressive forces of the people to stand up and stand against a very oppressive government that was oppressing these people for a very long time. We were known as a party of war, because if you do remember, 1991, up to 11 years thereafter, this country was devastated completely. But as the good Lord may have it, our leader then, Corporal Fode Simon Sanko, and all the other senior executive people of the roof came together and saw reason that the people of Sierra Leone are crying for peace, they deserve peace, and they must have peace. And that's exactly what he did. He called the people to give up the arms for a peaceful and prosperous and democratic Sierra Leone, which we are now enjoying today. I will take further ado to say that all the stakeholders, all the apparatus that came in this country to help in shaping the democratic infrastructure of Sierra Leone must be given a lot of thanks and appreciation. But our aim here today is to talk about actions for peace and our ambition for the global goals. Well, I would say Sierra Leone is a very, very peaceful country, if not the only or the most peaceful country in the sub-region of West Africa. This is one country that have known peace ever since colonial times. We have not gone through a lot of problems of instability at all. But what makes this day very important for us today, the trajectory that the African states are taking today are very, very worrisome. So therefore, we appreciate this day to make sure that we tell the people of this country, our students, our parents, our brothers, and other stakeholders that Sierra Leone is geared towards 100% of peace and stability in the sub-region of West Africa. So on that note, I would like to thank everyone that has been here to grace this occasion. And not forgetting also to say thank you to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, His Excellency Dr. Julius Maada Bio, because ever since he's taken over the reins of power in this country, and this is his second term, there has been a very, very proactive measures to make sure that his government is maintaining the peace and security of this country. So, I'm finally going to make it very short to let everyone know that in order for us to be able to sustain peace in Sierra Leone and across the country and in other West African countries and across the world, we must take a different narrative in looking at issues of equality and justice in all sectors, all disciplines and professions. Thank you very much, but there is not more time, but I will definitely appreciate everyone that has been here and also the opportunity of having me to say a few words to our people. Long live the people of Sierra Leone, long live our partners, and long live the peace that we aspire for in this country. Thank you.
Another big round of applause for the IAP. It's a very important, peaceful transition that normally we don't recognize the importance of how the transition. There are very few successful cases where you have a former rebel president moving on into a political party, now landing the act of engaging in political discourse as relevant party. Thank you very much, Ariel. Let's please welcome a representative from another political party, UDA. A big round of applause for UDA.
Hello. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols being observed. Let me first of all thank the organizers of this program. I also want to thank our invited guests, our ambassadors, etc., for coming to this place. I will start with this quote. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. I repeat, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. And really, punching an eye for an eye only end up by making the world go blind. In our Creole proverb, we say, do me, I do you. Do me, I do you. Who said it will end with today? Going through 11 years of senseless war, I can name it. Where did we all end up? We are still sitting in our one mama salon today. We went helter-skelter, running to and fro, all over the world, all over the places. But we ended up coming back to Sierra Leone. This is not absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. We cannot stand alone. As a Southeasterner, I cannot do without the Northern region. The Eastern region cannot do without the Northwest. We have 5 regions. And in all those 5 regions, we cannot name the 4 regions and leave the one behind. We are all the same. We are all peaceful and loving Sierra Leoneans. That's why we came third. Let us please maintain this position or we continue to go higher. Let us seek the love for one another. What makes us have peace is to sleep well. Those are one of the things that makes us have peace. If you lie down at night and start thinking about somebody coming to attack you overnight, taking the lives of your family away, you won't have peace. Let us stop pointing fingers at each other. Elections have passed. This is the time for us to reconcile, sit together and plan for a better future. Let's stop giving insightful messages that will make us to start running helter-skelter again. Hateful speech, misinformation, it will lead us to nowhere. Sierra Leone should be a country where other countries should start asking us, you have come third to be a peaceful country. How did you go about it? And by asking us, we should be there on the standby to give them our ideologies so that they too will learn from us and thereby Sierra Leone remaining to be a place for best practice. Before I take my seat, I will sing a short song. You just have to answer me, we are all one. We the people of Sierra Leone, we are all one. Go. We the people of Sierra Leone, we are all one. With you, unity, and I see why we are all one. You be Mende, you be Timini, we are all one. You be so, you be Kuanko, we are all one with you. And I see why we are all one.
Big hand of applause.
Sierra Leoneans, clap for yourself.
Very much representative from the union. You see, when women come, they come with a special bag, right? So let's give this power to women, right? They are in charge. Okay? All right. The president of WIMSAL is shouting from the corner. All right. I want to bring civil society organizations working within this program. One of which is the successor organization to Search for Common Ground. For those of us in the post-war years, we know one of the leading organizations that promoted issues of social cohesion and reconciliation was Search for Common Ground. The transition to Talking Drum Street. Today, Talking Drum Street is one of the leading organizations. They use media for reconciliation, they use community engagement and dialogue, town hall meetings, and they are one of the go-to institutions for promoting social. Please allow me to invite the national coordinator of Talking Drum Street, Mr. Alpha Kamara. Can you please tell us what are the concrete actions we should take to promote peace in Sierra Leone? Big round of applause. Welcome, Mr. Kamara, for Talking Drum Street.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I acknowledge the presence of everyone here. Thank you for coming. I bring you greetings from Talking Drums Studio and our revered partners, coalitions and networks working around peace promotion in this region across the country. We acknowledge the support we received over the years from our international development donors, the Irish Aid, USAID, UNDP, many. We say thank you. Today, we are gathered here in celebration of the International Day of Peace and the theme, Action for Peace, our vision and global goals. But also to continue the conversation and dialogue that will hopefully result in de-escalating tensions and promote peaceful coexistence. Over the years, Talking Drums Studio has contributed immensely to local peace initiatives and our community outreach programs and media engagements have reinforced positive narratives of peace. Our women-focused programs have been amazing. Today, women are now acting as ambassadors of peace in their communities. But I'm going to take a shift a bit and possibly divide, with your permission, the theme of today's celebration. Instead of looking at it from actions for peace and the rest of that, I'll take the first three words on actions for peace as part of my statement. The goals have been there since 2015 and onwards. But today, I'll look at the actions for peace. What should we do as a community to address issues of conflict? What should we do as a community as actions for peace? And I have a small list of thought out actions I would encourage all of us here to take note of. And some of which are, if we want to take actions for peace, and I ask that we all take actions for peace, kindly do the following. A, end all forms of discriminating behaviors against women and young people. Stop the inter and intra-party violence. Promote inclusive and participatory governance, and we should try to move away from the winner takes all approach to governance. We should improve on service provision at all levels. We end corruption and promote accountable use of our resources. We should increase access to information. We should undertake judicial reforms and increase citizens' confidence in judicial processes. We should crack down on drugs and the intake of harmful substances by young people. opportunities and platforms for dialogue. We should invest in a professional security sector, which citizens will have confidence in. And we have to do this as a country. We should leverage our good reputation on interfaith relations and translate that to political tolerance. Hopefully, this will address the issues of conflict in the country and achieve peace collectively. Talking Drums Studio and its partners, therefore, call on all political parties, those here and the others that are not here, the government, the traditional religious leaders, CSOs, etc., to take action for peace. There is no way we can make progress as a nation if we use violence as a means of addressing our influences. Therefore, we need the enabling environment. And the ways to achieve peace is dialogue, dialogue, and dialogue. And I hope that in the next few hours with us, we will all take concrete actions that will culminate in achieving peace for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause again. A menu of recommendations and solutions. I particularly like the last one. I think that's what's been missing. The question of civility. We can disagree, but how civil are we in our disagreement? That's been a very major. We are conscious of time, and we're now trying to push this as fast as possible. I'll now ask the speakers to stay within 2 minutes, and I'll be very helpful to allow us to deliver on this. We have a representative from the National Youth Council. A representative from the National Youth Council. Big round of applause for our sister in the National Youth Council. We've said a lot of things about young people, right? And we're happy for them to tell us. Sometimes they are both victims and also perpetrators. How do we ensure a much more peaceful society for children?
Mr. Chairman, ambassadors present, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the young people of Sierra Leone, I bring you greetings from the National Youth Council Chairman, who is unavoidably absent due to his participation on another important program in London. My name is Dr. Sejalo, the Deputy Chairperson for the National Youth Council and the National Youth Ambassador. I am delighted to extend our profound thanks and appreciations to the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion for extending their invitation to the National Youth Council, a body charged with the responsibility to cater for the affairs of young people in Sierra Leone. This invitation is a clear indicator and symbolic relationship which shows the relevance and commitment that, indeed, young people are fundamentally vital and can serve as main auxiliary in promoting peace-building agenda across Sierra Leone. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in my brief statement today, it may interest you to note that young people are contributing immensely towards building peace, national cohesion in Sierra Leone and beyond. Over the years, Young people across Sierra Leone have championed many national development programs, including the conduct of awareness raising and peace building campaigns, the non-violence and drug abuse campaigns, campaigns on free, fair, and credible elections, and as well as contributing to other national development programs. These campaigns are timelessly conducted by committed and dedicated young people across all levels of engagements: the house-to-house campaign, street-to-street, marketplaces, the ghettos, atabes, saloons, public gathering, community levels, focus group discussions, and many more important platforms. Despite our endless contributions to nation building, the youth of Sierra Leone are faced with great challenge that continue to hinder the progress of their achievements. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, knowing the negative impact of conflicts and its vulnerability as we observe the International Day of Peace celebration with the theme, Action for Peace, our ambition for global goals. Let me use this opportunity to admonish my fellow young people that the time to celebrate and embrace peace and national cohesion is now, and it should never be postponed. We shouldn't use violence as a means to settle our quest for development. We must condemn all forms of violence, and never again shall we use violence to resolve conflicts. We must recall the issues like the August 10, the pre, during, and post-election violence, political interference, and national disputes, and the best solution to promote peace-building agenda. We must strengthen our ambition for the global goal in the interest of peace and nation cohesion. Again and again, young people should distance themselves from all forms of violence, including illegal demonstrations, drug abuse, and political interference. Young people should focus on the career development programs that will enhance them more progressiveness, global interventions, and sustainable lifestyle programs. Finally, it is also an urgent call to all political parties to dissuade themselves from investing in young people to champion political violence, drug abuse, and any other illegal behavior in society. Our politicians must give peace a chance so that peace itself can reign in Sierra Leone. Thanks to you all, thanks to the young people of Sierra Leone, and thanks to all institutions that are supporting youth programs in Sierra Leone, especially the UNDP for believing and investing in us as young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A call for my young people, never again. I can see George, my friend, smiling, and with the mentioning of the UNDP and the support for young people. I know George is a friend of young people, so go more to him. He's got money for young people. Yeah. Thank you very much. I've been told the women's representative will be joining us later in the panel discussions. We want to make this very fast. So our last speaker before we invite the UN resident coordinator will be the head of Agiamondo, Maximilian Vogt. Maximilian from Agiamondo.
Yeah, good day together. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, I'm here today to represent the Civil Peace Service Program of the German NGO and faith-based organization Agiamondo. The Civil Peace Service Program works only through our local civil society partners who come from across the whole country and work in a diverse field of issues and topics. So I'm actually here today to represent their dedicated work towards peace and development in Sierra Leone. As it comes, this year's theme for the International Peace Day fits perfectly to our understanding of just, sustainable and inclusive peace. The global goals represent, above all, the interconnectedness of developmental efforts. And I would argue, real peace, I think the US ambassador called it sustainable peace, and our moderator, quoting Galton, called it positive peace. I would argue real peace stands at the center of all of these efforts and at the center of the Sustainable Development Goals. Real peace can only be achieved by creating a just, fair, and equal global society, by including young people in decision-making, by eradicating all forms of gender-based violence, by lifting up the most vulnerable and marginalized amongst us, and by finding a sustainable relationship with nature and its natural resources. These are the topics that our civil society partner organizations, who are all here today, are working towards dedicatedly. However, I would like to also take this opportunity to include all civil society organizations in Sierra Leone. All the dedicated organizations, small and large, and all the dedicated colleagues working in these organizations are the real motor of development and peace in the country. They take action every day to create the opportunities for international organizations like Agiamondo to contribute to these goals. So today, we should celebrate and appreciate Sierra Leone's strong civil society creating real peace every day. That's our statement.
Thank you very much, Maximilian. This wonderful German organization supporting the work of civil society groups across the country, especially for young people. We are now at a very important point of today's gathering. We all know why we're here. A lot of speakers after speakers have emphasized the need to promote peace. We got our friend from Talking Rock Studio gave us a menu of some of the actions that we should take to promote peace. Our political parties have made commitments to peace. Young people have called on their peers to contribute to the process. The US ambassador and the EU ambassador both spoke eloquently about the global parameters of peace, the war in Ukraine and its implication on the livelihoods and cost of living crisis, unconstitutional change of government in Africa, climate change, and other challenges. All of this put a heavy strain on peace and national cohesion, not only in Sierra Leone, but across the region. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we welcome the UN Resident Coordinator, who will be our guest speaker and providing the keynote address this morning on international works.
Ambassador Francis on this, here we go. Join and for
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You know, I have two problems. Everything that I need to say has been said. And this is what happens when you have a highly knowledgeable and experienced participants in the hall and who speak before you. The other one is not a problem as such. It's really to recognize, because it hasn't been done before now, the beautiful renditions of meaningful songs by Alafi Taylor and the entire One Family Band. They are not from the school, but they're actually a band. And the United Nations has worked with them over the years, at least inside Gautier. What this shows is that living with those who live with disability are only differently abled, not disabled. So we really want to thank the One Family Band. I know it's unusual for the UN, but because for a UN resident coordinator to do this, but because we're really running out of time, I will skip protocols. Simply say, Excellencies, ladies and
and gentlemen, I'm honored to be here today on behalf of the United Nations, the celebration of the International Day of Peace. And I would like to commend everyone for their continuous commitment to sustaining peace in Syria, including the Peace Commission and others who have organized this forum today to call attention of leaders and citizens to the need for action in peace building. Indeed, this year's theme of International Day of Peace is Action for Peace, our ambition for the global goals. We all know the situation in Syria. We know the recent history of Syria. So this call for action for peace is particularly relevant to the present situation in Syria, because the country is currently experiencing a political deadlock between the ruling party and the main opposition party as a result of the 24th June elections. So I will focus on that, because every other thing that you need to know about peace has been said, and about why we are commemorating the International Day of Peace today. Let me just say that political deadlocks and conflicts that descend into violence hamper peace and stability, and consequently undermine development and social cohesion, and frequently cause unnecessary suffering among people. I therefore welcome the initiative of the Commonwealth Secretary General to facilitate a dialogue process between the ruling and main opposition parties with the support of ECOWAS, African Union, and the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion. As the parties prepare for the dialogue, I would like to express my hopes for a genuine and honest commitment by all stakeholders involved in this process to resolve the current political impasse without delay for the benefit of the citizens of Sierra Leone and the progress of the country's democratic process. On 20th July 2023, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres presented to the UN member states its policy brief on a new agenda for peace, which outlines its vision for multilateral efforts for peace and security based on international law for a world in transition. The new agenda outlines an extensive and ambitious set of recommendations that recognize the interlinked nature of the challenges we face. And what I want you all to focus on in that policy brief, and I think they've been shared to, a number of those briefs have been shared to participants in the hall. It highlights again the importance of violence prevention, encouraging member states to frame prevention around national strategies to address the different drivers and enablers of violence in societies. And although prevention has been at the core of the UN's peace agenda and peace building agenda, what we are observing today across the world is that conflicts and wars are increasingly taking the place of diplomacy, dialogue, and negotiation. So we might ask the question, does this mean that prevention has failed? The concept of violence prevention has remained nebulous as it has been used to describe everything from the deployment of security forces to restrain people from protesting, all the way to development activities. So violence prevention encompasses a range of activities and interventions. And I think the lack of clarity on what violence prevention means in practice has led many governments to fail in keeping to the social contract signed with their people, increasing confrontations between people and security forces, and decreasing trust in state institutions amidst an increasing sense of inequality and social injustice. So when we talk about violence prevention strategies, for them to be effective, they have to address the root causes of grievance, of inequality, and marginalization, particularly of young people. Those strategies must engage multiple stakeholders from all sides of the social and political divide. And those strategies, for them to be effective in preventing violence, must promote a sense of belonging and social inclusion. Now, Sierra Leone is in the process of developing a new medium-term national development plan for the next 5 years, and has already identified 5 big game changers, which lay out the pathway that will steer the country towards sustainable development. So the point I want to make here, to all of us and those who are leading the process of developing the next medium-term national development plan, is that it is important to explicitly incorporate within the plan and its implementation under each of the game changers effective violence prevention strategies. This will hugely contribute to sustaining peace and national cohesion and help move the country forward. On that note, let me commend His Excellency the President for his stated commitment to decrease political tension and promote national cohesion. Likewise, I commend the opposition leaders for their commitment to maintaining peace in Sierra Leone. We call on both the ruling and opposition parties to peacefully resolve their differences and jointly contribute to diffuse tensions in communities across the country by preaching cohesion and unity in particular. They must, all the political leaders, and even the grassroots membership of the parties, must explicitly and consistently counter divisive ethno-regional discourse, and in particular counter hate speech that has prevailed during the electoral period and beyond. Dear friends, political tensions are perhaps natural at a time of elections. Anywhere in the world, we have tensions associated with elections. But if they are not addressed quickly, in the appropriate manner, once the elections are over, they risk becoming an obstacle to national development and cohesion, and creating an atmosphere of instability in the country. And as a sub-region, we already have enough dose of instability. Sierra Leone should remain peaceful and stable. Government and social actors at all levels, including political parties, have a shared responsibility for ensuring that multiple grievances are addressed in the appropriate manner and that conflicts are resolved peacefully. And I think I've said this so many times, I'm sounding like a broken record. We must never forget that conflict prevention is always far better than peace building. As we also know, dear friends, gender equality is one of the fundamental aspects of resilience and peace. because we know that women, children, and other vulnerable groups are disproportionately affected in times of economic hardship and conflict. And I'm happy with the way the U.S. ambassador and other speakers, EU ambassador, drew the link between what is happening in Ukraine and the impact, devastating impact on the living conditions of ordinary Sierra Leoneans. So I would like to encourage all of us to really examine thoughtfully and seriously how to address, the economic, political, and social aspirations of particularly disadvantaged groups, including women, young people, persons living with disability, and within those groups, the hyper-vulnerable within those groups. We have to be able to address their aspirations through innovative and inclusive approaches so that we don't leave anyone behind. Once we leave significant segments of our population behind, then sustained, real, sustained, positive peace will be impossible to achieve. We in the United Nations encourage continued dialogue at all levels, just as we encourage inclusion and respect for the rule of law and human rights at all levels. Therefore, the United Nations subscribes to any effort that can contribute to reducing violence and resolving disputes peacefully while promoting social inclusion, addressing the justice needs of the people, and reducing polarization and distrust, particularly at this critical stage in the evolution of democratic governance in Sierra Leone. So we stand ready to support, and we will continue to support Sierra Leone to enjoy peace, to enjoy stability, and to enjoy good democratic governance. I thank you for your kind attention.
For Dr. Babatunde Adhosi, the UN resident coordinator in Sierra Leone. Very clear, he dealt with the elephant in the room, right? What we're dealing with is essentially a political bedlam, where we are supposed to be in a democracy, but we know what the challenges are, and the progress that have been made by the Independent Commission for Peace to bring in two important stakeholders into that. They have a responsibility, Ambassador Babatunde mentioned, to do so in the interest of Sierra Leone. And it's critical that they do it now. He also spoke about prevention, right? Dealing with violence and crisis, young people. And he mentioned particularly, and I'll bring a message to the Director of Research and Planning, Dr. Shekhar Bangura of the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, a recommendation in the next midterm development plan to include a section on conflict prevention, issues around vulnerability. How do we do this? It's always better to prevent than to cure. On that note, let me recognize the presence of my younger brother, he's a big man, the Deputy Minister of Information and Civic Education, Mr. Kiketo Masagi. Let me also recognize the people who have invested time and resources, the partners into this program, the UNDP, Irish Aid, Talking Drum Studios, Germondo, Civil Peace Service, UBA, the Chinese Embassy, World Vision, and Trocare. We're live on AYB and SLBC TV as part of this process. We're going to serve lunch around 12:30. Before then, let's put up again another big round of applause for the UN resident for dealing with the major issue. What we're having next is a small panel discussion of about 30 minutes. It will take us to 12:30, then we'll move on to lunch. That panel discussion will be chaired by the Director of Communications at ICPN, Director of Communications, am I right? All right, Salia Parker, Director of Communications. We are bringing together a representative from Windsor. Windsor, please take your seats. We're bringing a representative from the Office of National Security. The Office of National Security, my own very lecturer, formerly the Chief of Staff of ONS. Please take your seat, sir. We're bringing in the Interreligious Council, Alhaji Mamadou Koroma from the Interreligious Council. Please join the panel. And we're bringing in a representative from CSO, working with Agiamondo, the civil peace partner. We're bringing in the West African Youth Network, the director of the West African Youth Network, to join the conversation. What we want to do is our speakers, our guests, the ambassadors, our donors have spoken about a number of issues. What we now want to do is to turn this conversation to young people, to people dealing with the security sector, to religious leaders, to say, what can we do? What can we do to improve this process? Until then, that will be the end of my session today. I want to thank you very much for the audience, for listening to me, and I'm going to pass this. All right, I'll also be informed that we have in our presence the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, the Honorable Moriba Koroma. Honorable Moriba Koroma, where are you? Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. I'm going to pass you over to the moderator for this session. After this session, we'll have a lot of thanks. And those of you who care for lunch, there'll be lunch served to all the guests. Thank you very much, and thanks for your audience. Mr. Barry.
Thank you very much. Put your hands together for Dr. Tony. Thank you very much. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very much for your job. Just perhaps a quick correction. I'm not sure I want my director to resign as yet. I am the deputy director. All right, thank you very much. Today's event has a theme, which is Action for Peace, our ambition for the global goals. We want to narrow down on goal 16, which talks about peace, justice, and strong institutions. But of course, we cannot talk about peace, justice, and strong institutions if not with our partnership. We need institutions to come together. We need a synergy between institutions. And that speaks to goal number 17. So that is why we have on this panel representatives coming from different institutions, from the young people to the security sector, to the media, and to the religious representation. So we would not want to waste further time. I just want you to individually quickly introduce yourselves, starting from my immediate right.
Thank you. I'm Alhaji Mamadou Koroma, Executive Member of the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone, representing my religious umbrella body, the United Council of Imams in Sierra Leone as technical advisor, and representing the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone, which I'm representing here right now on behalf of the President.
Thank you. Pass on the microphone.
I am James Mochi, Executive Director for the West African Youth Network, an organization that is working for the inclusion of young people into leadership and governance, and I am very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, you heard the previous moderator say that I was the Chief of Staff in the Office of National Security. At the moment, I'm the Deputy National Security
coordinator. I'm Dr. Ahmed Sama, and I'm here to represent the Office of National Security and by implication, the security sector of Sierra Leone.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Istina Taylor, and I am representing Women in the Media. So Women in the Media is an organization that was formed to advocate for more space for women in the media, but also we advocate for women and girls in Sierra Leone and beyond. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Keep holding the microphone. All right. We want to start with you, Madam Esther Taylor. You are doubling as WIMSA president, but also representing the media. We want to talk about actions. What tangible actions have you been doing, or what tangible action will you do to maintain the peace?
In the concept of women or media?
There you are.
All right, okay. So I think there are actions that needs to be taken. But before I talk about these actions, peace is mostly about finding commonalities instead of how different we are. Because when we look at the commonalities, what makes us unique, what makes us so closer together, it's a way of finding more reasons to be together. But what actions can we take in terms of the media? I think objective reporting is something that we need to take as the media, meaning providing unbiased, fact-based reporting that represents a balanced viewpoint in terms of conflicts or avoiding sentiment as well. It's quite key, but also promoting dialogue, as other speakers have mentioned. It's important that we create a platform where everybody feels like their voice matters. Their voices have been heard, where people feel like they are important as much as any other person. It's very important, and the media has a key role in promoting that dialogue, not only getting one side, but also getting another side, making sure that people talk, they communicate. Because let's take peace in the context of the home. When you are at home, communication is key. If you say, okay, this is a problem, but I will just avoid, I will just keep my side, that doesn't mean that you have peace. Because it will ponder, you will keep thinking about it, it will bother you, you will have sleepless nights. So communication is very important when we talk about peace. Because in the era of meaning, I communicate how I feel, I communicate what's happening. You listen, but not only listen, but you also, I'm the one communicating must also take the side of also listening as well. Meaning, when you have communicated what it is, how you feel, the other person will talk about how they feel too. Nobody is perfect when it comes to peace. And nobody is 100% the victim. So that's the first thing in accepting. Because let's take another scenario. Now, we were fighting. You said something to me and I replied to you. I said something that's hurtful to you and you slapped me. We are not 100% victim, both of us. So it takes our collective action and intention, meaning I know that this is a difficult situation, but I am intentional to make sure that peace prevails. Then, also highlighting peaceful initiatives. You know the media, I have been in the media for over 15 years, and most times we report when things are difficult. But what about reporting on initiatives that are promoting this? What about highlighting, solution journalism is another thing that we must take. Because we are the fourth estate, but when we pass on information, when these information are biased, we're passing on these things to people. We're creating tensions. We're creating all sorts of things. Then also, we can also advocate for human rights. Then ethical reporting is what I want to talk about. Ethical reporting is adhering to ethical journalism standards, meaning you're not biased, meaning including responsible use of language, responsible use of image, and making sure that what you say as media person is not insightful.
All right, I will have to come back to you. Thank you very much. Takeaways from that is that we have to be proactive with the information. Let's not have valuable information. Let's not have information that the public needs. Keep it on our shelves. Let us be ethical in the job that we do. Let us learn to communicate and to listen. There are always two sides when it comes to communication. That said, let's hear from the Office of the National Security. A lot has been happening around before the elections, within the elections era, and even now that we are in post-elections phase. Let's know what are some of those challenges, what are some of those bottlenecks that you have been having as an institution that is supposed to uphold national security.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think we want to start at the outset by congratulating you for having convened this meeting to celebrate world peace. For us as security practitioners, this is quite consoling, because if there is peace, we are likely to have less job to do. And so we will not be pressured to go out of our way. But we all can agree with the fact that everybody here has some knowledge or intuition about the fundamentals of peace and peace building. So we wouldn't go into that, perhaps what is important is for us to actually tell you what are some of the institutional interventions that are geared towards ensuring peace, ensuring that society live in cohesion, and ensuring that we have created the enabling environment for socio-economic development. As an Office of National Security, I think we symbolize the security instrument of national power. And I think that is quite important, because we all can recognize the nexus between security and development. There will be no development without security. And so because of that, the security sector has the responsibility to live up to its task of creating the enabling environment so that everybody will feel safe, everybody will feel secure, and everybody would have the audacity to go about their business. Where in the current circumstance, even before the June 24th elections and beyond, the security sector has been contending with social media misuse, and that to a very large extent was responsible for some of the violent outbursts of people, because social media, which is a new form of a threat to national security, has been presenting outrageous information, putting out incitements that are likely to goad the people into doing something that is either rebellious or can actually undermine the fabric of peace and security. So we found that to be quite challenging, but we did not leave it unattended. We tried to embark upon some strategies to be able to deal with that menace. And one of the components of that strategy is to make sure that we actually embark upon IEC, that is Information, Education and Communication, so that we are able to talk to the people for them to understand the positive outcomes of maintaining peace, the positive outcomes of remaining civil, the positive outcomes of obeying law and order. And we are there should be information flow. So what we have been doing really in that regard is to make sure that our own response as a security sector is something that is not Machiavellian at all.
is something that is going to be responsive, is something that is going to be reasonable, is something that is going to be proportionate. And because of that, we have actually underscored the issue of human rights responses in security interventions, making sure that we use a kind of approach that does not undermine civilian integrity, that does not undermine the integrity of the country, that will not increase the hostility of the people towards the security sector. I think that's the new trend of our approach, so that we are able to make sure that security becomes inclusive and everybody understands that security is something they must contribute towards, because without security there will be no meaningful development. And since as an Office of National Security we are responsible for promoting security sector governance, that is the kind of ideal we are trying to permeate within the security sector, so that we will not be high-handed, so that we will be more reliant on cajoling the people, talking to them about the need for them to remain civil, the fact that they should be patriotic and nationalistic, and the fact that everybody's contribution is germane to having a wholesome development.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A lot said there. I'm happy you mentioned the issue of drug abuse. Coming to you, Mr. Ford, to talk a little bit on that, because when we talk about drug abuse and the misuse of social media, I'll have to come to you, Madam, to tell us a little bit about that. But Mr. Ford, drug abuse is one big threat to national peace. What are you people doing to have our youth meaningfully engaged?
Thank you very much. I will start my own discourse with this quote by Albert Einstein. He said, "Peace cannot be get by force, it can only be achieved by understanding." So when we talk about the negative impact of issues happening in our society on young people, and chief amongst which in Sierra Leone presently is the issue with drugs. But before I talk specifically about drug abuse, maybe let me just give a little bit of context around young people in Sierra Leone. When you look at our population as a country, you realize that majority are young people. It is made up of young people. We have a very beautiful population. Considering the various issues, things affecting young people here in Sierra Leone, the issue of drug abuse is more or less a reaction to several other things that are happening. You look at, for example, the impact of conflict on young people here. It derails their progress. When you had the August 10th issue, I mean, the victims as well as those who were the perpetrators were young people. When you look at the amount of support or attention that is given to initiative by young people's led initiatives, it doesn't have that much support. So you now have an instance where you have a population where you have majority of young people, they have initiatives, they have skills, but those skills are not so supported. Further to that, you look at education and skill building. Here in Sierra Leone, our education system is met with a lot of problems. For every year, when you have universities reopen, you must have colleges and university lecturers who go on strike. Sometimes for 3 months, sometimes for a month, sometimes for weeks. And when by the time you negotiate, you bring them to the negotiating table and colleges to reopen again, you realize that the lost time, nobody's going to make up for that. You just do 2 weeks of classes and then you go straight to exams. And you go take that exam and you're going to fail surely because you were not taught very well. And then you talk about the participation, the inclusion of young people in decision-making processes. It is often said that we should create space for young people, even when it comes to electioneering process, for them to contest and all. But go and check the records and see how many young people were given symbols to contest within their political parties. In total, based on my personal research, only 2 young people stood for the chairperson position in these local communities that were given symbols by political parties. And these 2 are namely Teresa Sako, that is in Bo, under the SLPP, and Sheku Augustine Sa in Moyamba, under the SLPP.
All right, I'll pause you for that from there. 2 young people in governance, but that depends on what.
No, I am talking specifically in relation to chairperson.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Not in governance as a whole.
It's okay. It's okay.
And
yeah, carry on.
So you see, when we talk about the participation, inclusion of young people, if you include 5 out of 500, you have not included young people properly yet. So that is it. So when you talk about creating space for young people, you want to see this holistic approach. And it starts from the bottom going up. We are not just talking about ministerial position. We're talking about local council, even within political parties, leadership position and all of that. So you see that the efforts have been there, but it's not strong enough. Now all of these, you now come to the issue of drug abuse. You ask, why are young people out there resorting to taking drugs? If you are not empowered, you feel like the space in which you are to operate is so has been shrinked to these points that you only have a small space to operate. You do not see opportunities, all you see are challenges. And that is what is facing our young people today. If you go down to the world, those youths that are, they are skilled, maybe guiders or so, they are unemployed. We talk about middle manpower, yes. But you look at so many youths out there that are skilled in carpentry, skilled in masonry, and so, you name it. But they are not employed. Because when you look at even the foreign companies that operate here in Sierra Leone, when they are operating here, they bring their manual labor. Sometimes, most of the time, they call them experts, but these are things that young people here can do. But because you do not want to give them the job, you give them the job there. And you give them the title as experts. But what those people are doing here, you have Sierra Leonean youths that are much more qualified to deliver. So you see that the space is so small. So when you talk about drug abuse, you know, normally we miss the point. The focus is normally on the ghetto youths, those that are out there. You are lucky to see those ones, you know what, they do not have homes and all of it. That is why you see them sleeping across the gutters and all of it. But it will surprise you to know, young people such as myself, you know, in suits and all, who also take push because of the hardness of life.
I see. You're making some very serious points. The idle brain definitely will have to be the devil's workshop.
And sometimes an overworked brain is also the devil's workshop.
That's a good one. But the most important thing to underscore there is the fact that we need to provide the space for young people to engage. If we do not provide space for them to engage, we are only allowing them to be used and be misused. I'll have to come back to you to talk about drugs and drugs abuse and what you are specifically doing to combat that. But let's come to interreligious council. Normally when things go bad, we run to the church or to the mosque. When things are not okay with us, we look up to the religious people for advice. Alhaji, tell us a little bit about what interreligious council, the role that interreligious council have been playing, you know, to combat community violence, to combat community conflicts, and to instill some religious, some ethical behavior in people. What has interreligious council been doing to uphold the peace?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Let me greet you once more, wishing you peace and blessing of the Almighty God. In the Islamic language, we say Assalamu alaikum. And in the biblical language, we also say Shalom alaikum. Now, let me bring you peaceful greetings from President and Vice President of the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone, His Grace, the Most Holy Archbishop Charles, and the Vice President, Alhaji Mukhtar Sisili. They are supposed to be here at this meeting. They were very keen to be here to do what I'm doing now, but unavoidably, they could not. However, today we are here to celebrate the International Day of Peace. And indeed, peace is a very valuable thing in our life. As the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone, this is a council which is able to make religious leaders from both Muslims and Christian organizations to sit together, and promote peace, I would say. For us to promote peace and to sustain peace in the country, what we would like to tell people is that we should all make it a point of duty as God-believing people. This country is a God-believing nation. And you, as a good Muslim and a good Christian, always try to be a role model for people to emulate. If you are a God-believing person, Muslim or Christian, you believe God and the last day. What does that mean? You believe not only in God that He exists, but you believe in the last day in the sense that you have to be judged, for whatever you are doing. So meaning that if you are engaged in righteous good deeds, for sure, your belief in God and the last day means you'll be rewarded not only here, but you'll also be rewarded by entrance into heaven or Al-Jannah we are all looking out for. If you do not do what you're supposed to do, you are engaged in wrongdoings, what you are also saying that you are going to miss entrance into heaven, and therefore you will qualify for hell, which is a terrible place for everybody. We pray that nobody enter hell, but we pray that everybody enter into heaven. So as Interreligious Council leaders, we have been instilling in everybody, and we continue to do that, instill the fear of God in you, because your internal nature of fearing God will play on your external nature of interacting with one another. Unless and until you fear God sincerely, you will not be able, to help or even live in peace and in relation with your fellow man. If we say we are religious people, and we go to church, we go to the mosque to beg God to forgive us for our mistakes and our sin to change, we should be demonstrating this amongst our people. But sometimes what happens in this country, you see people definitely, they are church-going people, they are mosque-going people. Definitely in Israel, we are very prayerful people. What we cannot understand is that with all these prayers and demonstrations of good, religious nature, when it comes to struggle for power, when it comes to struggle for political power, we seem to be leaving our religion a little bit behind. We want to encourage you, please, to stop doing this. Carry your religion, wherever you want to do. If you fight for power, go with your religion. I think you will be the needful, and therefore will live as a peaceful nation.
Thank you very much. If you want to remain peaceful, don't just pray in the mosque, but in the church, carry your religion, even in practicing politics. Let's talk a little bit about social media. As much as social media, can you pass the microphone to Madam Taylor? As much as social media has a lot of good sides, because information is power. But this is a country where everybody has become a journalist. Everybody wants to post information. let us talk about some of the ills of social media and what could be done to better use social media for peace, national cohesion, and development.
So, social media is a reflection of our society. Whatever happens in that small corner, before we had internet, before we had social media, it's just a reflection of what's going on. You see people, you know, there are people who doesn't feel accepted in normal life. They want to feel accepted in on social media, on Facebook. You see young ladies, they want to feel welcome. They want their voices to be added to these things. But the thing about the misuse of social media is people know a lot about, you know, how to show off, how to say things. But what about how to promote peace on social media? What about how to promote peace on social media? And a lot that's happening, sometimes it's because people don't feel like they can talk normally. The ones who raise their voice or who say things, because they feel like they have been neglected. So they use social media to raise their voice. And that's where people who feel like they are too powerful, they feel like they should stop them. Look at cyberbullying. Women face cyberbullying more than any other person. I was in an event and I asked the man, how many times do men send flirting remarks to you? So that's why women don't take part in discourse online. So there was this survey about how many women actually engage in meaningful discussions and meaningful conversations online. Few women, in Sierra Leone it's far worse. We have more women on these platforms, but we have less women talking about things. You know why? Because when you talk, they will go into your PV and say, I know where you live, I know where your children goes to school. They will do that. And how many times for women, how many men here will have nude pictures or sex pictures of private parts? Men will just wake up and send pictures of private parts in my inbox. So these are the challenges that we face, and nobody is ready to deal with it. Nobody is ready to address it. But the abuse of social media, it's also there's a space that has been lacking. You know, because with technology and traditional media, we know how to tell stories traditionally. We know how to present that on our radio. But how can we present creative content on social media to take in that space so that hate speech, so that incitement, so that all these things will not survive online? But also it takes us as individuals. If you cannot do that face to face, why do you do that online? Why do you go and say, imagine a young lady who is trying to thrive, you go on social media destroying that lady's confidence, telling that person, I know the man where they sleep with you. These are the things, these are the abuses that goes online. And for young people, you know, the young man was talking about drug abuse. I think the drug abuse is a cry for help. When we address, so the point that I wrote down about mental health consideration is very important in our society. When someone says, I am stressed, you say, but now we don't all be animal, so again. No. Yeah, because if we have a perfect mind, we will be able to reason and we'll be intentional about peace. We'll be intentional about what we do. So drug abuse is a cry for help. Drug abuse is it's just showing that there is a bigger problem underneath that we need to address. And these abuses online can only reduce when we are intentional, that when we go on these spaces is to talk about important things, is to push communities, to push individuals, is to invest on us, our intellect, that's what social media was initially created for. Imagine there are so many things that you can learn on social media, but there are so many bad things that you can take on social media too. So it's intentional. Let us make conscious effort to say when we go online, because we are all users of online, when we go online, let us make conscious effort that we will do what is right. What you cannot do physically, don't try to do it online. That will reduce. It will reduce the work of even the media. Because we struggle to deal with, imagine imagine the Sludge and I-Verify. All of the things that comes to Sludge I-Verify, you would see that if we as individuals will make conscious effort that we would not go there to disrupt somebody's peace. We will not go there to talk about people badly. We will not go there to destroy somebody's confidence. The confidence that someone has taken 10 years to build. You just go there and say, I know how many thousand man they sleep with you.
Right. It's good. I'm happy you talked about I-Verify. Yes, social media is good, but let's manage it consciously and let's manage it responsibly.
And intentionally, saying when I go there, this is a space, my space, but also it's a line that's it's another person's space. So as much as you have a right to talk, another person too have the right to talk, and respect will keep the peace.
All right. Let's have OMs. Sierra Leone currently ranked as the most peaceful in West Africa. We are the third most peaceful in Africa. We want to become the most peaceful country in Africa, and by extension, be among the peaceful countries in the world. How do we get there? We cannot delink peace from security. So tell us how we will get there.
All right, thank you very much for that. Let me use All right, thank you very much for that. Let me use this of saying that the conflict cycle. You know, international relations, it's expressed that any country that goes through a conflict should be observed for 20 years. If within that 20 years it does not relapse into another conflict, then it is safe and sound. So in the case of Sierra Leone and Liberia, I think we have actually transcended that. Because we have gone over the conflict cycle. Well, you are asking how or what are some of the imperatives for us becoming the safest place in the world, the most peaceful place in the world. This is something that calls for a collective action. It calls for an action from the Interreligious Council. It calls for an action from the politicians and the political masters. It calls for an action from the civil society. It calls for an action from the media. And it calls for an action from every Sierra Leonean. In the first instance, we should acknowledge the fact that it is always important to respect one another. If we inculcate the culture of respecting one another, I think that is a milestone to becoming the most peaceful country in the world. If we also become empathetic, that is to say that you feel for someone exactly what you are feeling for yourself, that too will help to reduce the nuances of conflict and people will be able to come together. And so when we talk about fostering cohesion, some of the things have already been said that we ought to do, and perhaps they may be reiterated. That is to say, we create enabling grant for everybody's survivor, so that everybody is going to survive based on his or her potentials. Everybody knows that we have an egalitarian society, whereby everybody that is a citizen must have access to what he or she must have access to. Then we also make sure that as a people ourselves, we become law-abiding. That is to say, we respect the law. But I think one of the things which is actually the annoying thing is that majority of Israelis have the propensity to be lawless. And perhaps that is one of the reasons for our predicament. Okay. Because we don't want to respect the law. If we decide to respect the law, even in terms of security sector response, that's not going to be harsh, because you know that you are dealing with the people. And so because of that, we have now introduced inclusive security so that everybody must participate, and that's actually underscored by dialogue, so that we keep dialoguing with people for them to understand what their remits are and what their goals are, so that we are able to move the country forward.
Thank you very much. That's a good way to close from your end. Let's dialogue and let's respect the rule of law. In closing, tell us, what would be your message to the youth out there?
Okay, thank you very much. My message to the youth out there, to young people remains the same. It's about if nobody wants to move you, move yourself. That is just it. And primarily I want to focus on when we are organizing engagements and dialogues for young people and things like that, it comes back to the point of how much attention are we really paying to these things. If you want to talk about drug abuse, you want to talk about push, I think if we're really serious about finding a solution and knowing the root cause of the problem, get somebody who knows it. Because it's International Peace Day today. We've invited university students, we've invited school-going pupils, but if we consider those youths in the ghetto, those ones in the entire base, it is important because when you talk about peace, you talk about conflict, they are always in the middle of it all. They are the victims, they are the perpetrators. Normally, when the August 10 was out there, I mean, those college students and those pupils, they were at home. But the guys in the ghettos, they were in the streets. So when we organize such dialogues, it is important for us to create a space for them also. And not just create a space for them to serve as spectators, but create a space for them also to speak. Because it is very much important. And that is the holistic inclusion that we're talking about. You include the young people from all stratas. If you want to use one approach, then you're not going to get onto all the young people. Get those that are down there, get those ones that are in the middle, get those ones that are up. Then you have a perfect understanding of what the problems are and what the solution may likely be.
Thank you very much. Inclusive participation and giving them the space to not just spectate but to also talk. Alaji, how would you want to send us home?
Thank you very much. Well, we will send you, out there with a reminder that please continue to be a God-believing person and carry your religion with you whatever you are doing, by saying the truth, by avoiding violence, by speaking peacefully. Put up a smiling face wherever you go. Many people like twisting their faces around. If you look at people in the street in this country, they are walking helter-skelter, and when you look at their faces, they are twisted faces. Which we are begging you to please put up smiling faces. That is a great gift that will promote peace in this country and will make us God-believing people.
Thank you very much. Let's keep smiling. The more we smile, the more peaceful we are going to be. Let's hear from the women's view.
Well, I would say that finally, if we want peace, we must work with our enemies. And when we work with our enemies, we will become partners, says Nelson Mandela. And peace is not only about, what we see, but also if we want peace, it's something we don't only wish for. It's something we make, it's something we do, and something we are. That says John Lennon. And finally, peace is the only battle worth waging. That's what I remain. And women should be included in peace building, because most times, look at the panel. We have, look at the panel. We have women. And even in the village, when we were walking around, when we were doing community dialogue with women, they said, they leave us behind. Women are key partners in peace building, because when there is war, we face it. If I have 5 children and there is war, there is conflict, I have to carry my 5 children. My husband will be running away and walking. There was a woman who said, I barely think of dropping my baby in the ocean during the war. Because when we have conflict, we suffer most. So peace, women, we are together. We should be given the opportunity, because mostly women are not the perpetrators of peace, but we suffer more when it comes to peace. So please, let's be important partners when it comes to peace. Let's be at the forefront of peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a good message to the women. But I like the quote that peace is the only war worth waging. I'll take that from you. You want to say final?
Yes, my personal word is that we have been told about negative and positive peace. So let us use negative peace as a platform to derive positive peace, whereby we actually take advantage of the fact that people are not worried, there is no more violence, but we can actually use that to address those structural things that have a tendency to create conflict. as we all focus our minds to that, I'm sure we'll be able to have durable peace that will lead to sustainable development.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you for your patience. My panelists have been Dr. Ahmed A. Sanok from ONS, Alhaji Mohammed Kurman from Interreligious Council, Estina Taylor from WIMSA. WIMSA is Women in Media Sierra Leone. And of course, James Fona is the director for West African Youth Network. Fortune, Mr. James Fortune is director for the West African Youth Network. Thank you very much, my esteemed panelists. You may now kindly take your seats as we give them a round of applause. Let's give them for them as they take their seats. Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much for your patience. We want to end the program with two more items. We would have the vote of thanks to be delivered by Director Bona of Preventions. But before that, we want to have the theme song that will be done by Ambassador Patterson. Ambassador Patterson, are you here? Please put your hands together as Ambassador Patterson takes the floor to give us the theme song. Ambassador Patterson happens to be one of our hardworking staff from the regions. They actually works in the northern region, right? Northwestern region. Ambassador Patterson?
Good afternoon, everybody. And this afternoon, I'm a proud Sierra Leonean. And I guess you are. Because among 195 countries in the world, we are rated 47. And among 54 in Africa, we are 4th. And in West Africa, we are number 1. And since John was a boy, in the Mano River Basin, we have always been the best. Put your hands together for Sierra Leone. You need to clap for that. Yes, we are celebrating peace today. Sweet Salome, my motherland. We need peace inside Salome. If you let me, I let you. Let Salome to go before. If you don't fetch me, I don't fetch you. You don't cost me, I don't cost you. We will get a better Salome. Sierra Leone, a beautiful country. The bad party. Let me see you wave your hand. All the Sierra Leone in the house. We are going to do it together. We let with Salome. To talk. Salome, a sweet country. Come on. We want to love Mama Salome. If you believe it, let us sing. Let me Salome. Come on, come on. Let us be hands together. Oh, let me Salome. Come on, join me in the song. Oh, let me Salome.
so English will not actually we'll be there more for the youth man there. Appreciate when we can really participate and when I be listening so keenly. And I know say plenty of una will take message along. Una all thank you when I can participate. Thank you for community. Next year about the Wodina and let God go now. Una all thank you. Participants also from the other organizations, representatives, you are also welcome. You played your own part here, and we appreciate your presence. And next year, we'll see you on Peace Day on the 21st of September 2024. Thank you.